plaintiff, Donald Klein, was married to the defendant, and he claims everything was fine at first. However, Donald claims they ultimately divorced because the defendant caught him watching pornography several times, and he's suing her today for the balance due on a loan. Defendant Tammy Klein says despite the fact that she and Donald went to counseling for his internet porn addiction, nothing changed. So she was forced to leave and move into a women's shelter. Tammy denies owing Donald for anything.
Let's start with you. Give me some background or whatever you want me to know.
I met Tammy country line dancing. We hit it off, and the sex was good. We got married.
Okay. How long after meeting did you all marry?
We were together almost 2 years.
2 years? Okay. How did that go? You married?
It went well initially, and after a few years,
sex wore off.
it did. I had medical issues and Peyronie's and ED. I went to have injections, pills, ended up with a prosthetic, and still nothing. During this period of time, I kept feeling that my issues were the concern. After that, Tammy caught me viewing porn many times. I kept trying to quit. No success. And I did not view porn for physical release of any kind, just something to do.
I don't believe somebody just watches porn for something to do.
The storyline.
Yeah,
Well-
the storyline. Yeah, you were looking at the storyline. Sorry, you were looking at it to get stimulated. And she
And
knew that.
I
Go
would
ahead.
say the physical aspects, only 0.1% of the time that I viewed porn. One day, she came home from a job interview during that 0.1%. And a week later, on my chair was a note, "I'm leaving." And she went to a women's shelter.
You did something else other than just get caught watching porn. Let me hear from you, ma'am.
Well, we were married 15, 16 years. He did have an internet porn addiction that would come up from time to time. We went to counseling from our church several times. They paid for counseling. It didn't do any good. Finally, our pastor that counseled us said, the only thing that's going to work is for you to leave him. Maybe it'll jar him and make him stop his porn addiction. So the church arranged for me to go to the shelter, the women's shelter. At the time, I was beside myself. I didn't want to leave. I was penniless. I did not have a job. I took only clothes and our 95 station wagon with me, okay? So I went to the shelter. I stayed there for 4 months. I got on my feet. I got a part-time job at a car dealership. I saved money so I could get my own place. After 4 months, I moved into an apartment, and I was still working part-time. So I was a struggle, but I did it. I lived in my apartment as people helped me with furniture and stuff. I did get a few things from the house, but not very much. He sold a lot of things, and I didn't get any of the money from that. So anyway, I stayed in my apartment for 5 years.
You all never tried to reconcile again? I know at first when you all couldn't reconcile living in the same household, going to counseling, but after being separated, you didn't try and give it a couple of more attempts?
If he would have wanted to, we would have tried, but there was no communication about that.
You didn't call him and say, have you stopped?
I asked him how he was doing with it, and he said he had his good days and his bad days from time to time.
All right. So you were asking. So after 5 years, what happened?
My rent kept going up, so I knew I had to get out of my apartment and find something I could afford. And I knew I was getting a small inheritance from my mom. So I started looking before my rent went back up. It was getting into the $600 a month.
When did you all divorce? Before or after this?
After that.
$600 a month you were looking at?
Yes. So I found a cheap condo that was a fixer-upper. I got my inheritance from my mother. She wanted us to spend it while she was alive so she could enjoy it.
She gave you the inheritance while alive?
Yes. She sold her house and split the money between her kids.
Okay. Legally, it wasn't inheritance.
That's what
it
she
was
called
just,
it.
Okay, I got it.
I'm sorry.
All right, go ahead.
I found this cheap condo, and so he did help me with some cell phone bills, and I tried to pay him back.
Well, let's get to that, the
Okay.
loan part. And sir, she says your addiction was so compelling that you chose your addiction over your wife. Now, people do that all the time with drugs. I know certain drugs are physically addictive, where if you stop, you'll go through intense withdrawal. And sometimes people can't deal with that because of the pain and everything that you go through. And so they choose not to be in pain and withdrawal and just keep putting it off. Wife leaves and they still just whatever, they have those cravings and they got to satisfy whatever. But I guess that's a craving too. How do you allow you? I mean, when she left, you didn't say, you didn't think even, or maybe you did, and maybe you even tried. When she left, you knew it was because of the porn.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what have you been told? The counselor, did the church tell you what to do? Anybody advise you on how to overcome your addiction?
Yes, and I went to the VA counselor, and I've been counseled for 3 years now,
Wow.
and things have gone well with that counseling. Now, a few months before she left, we had sex 3 times in the year I had my prosthetic. And one day I suggested number 4, and she looked at me and said, I can't stand the idea of seeing you naked. Well, that kind of tripped a switch in my mind, and I figured it was done. And the relationship had deteriorated to the point where I no longer wanted to be with Tammy, but I was not going to leave Tammy because I knew that I was helpful for her in keeping her cars running, bills, whatever.
That's
so
why you
I was
needed-
supporting her.
Tell me about the loan, sir.
Okay, a number of times she asked me to loan her money and gave me post-dated checks. And it finally got up to $670, and she said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'll give you a check for $670. And she noted on it that to be cashed when inheritance received. 3 years later, I found out she was getting her inheritance. I went to the bank. They said, it's been over 6 months. So after many text messages back and forth with Tammy, I told her I'd take her to small claims court. And she said she didn't have the money because she needed it for closing. And she finally...
Closing on a house?
On the house, yeah, on the condo. So finally she texted me and said, I'll pay the whole $670 if you'll take $50 a pay period.
What'd you say?
Sure, but don't miss any.
And has she?
She made 8 payments for $400.
Okay, and stopped.
And when we got to the $270 that remained, she said, well, the gas bill in my home is 3 times what I expected. I can't
When was that?
pay. November last year.
Of 17. And you haven't received anything since?
Correct.
Ma'am, did he loan you money? If so, why haven't you paid it all?
He did loan me money, and I did pay him back $400. I have copies of the checks if you want to see
He
them.
says that.
Okay. I was buying the condo, so because of the rent going up, it had a lot of problems. There was a lot of expenses. I had to pay an old
So
electric
you do
bill.
owe him, ma'am?
Pardon?
You do owe him $270?
I don't think I do because he sold stuff out of our house and didn't give me any of the money for
Okay,
it.
that's a counterclaim, so you'll have to sue him for that. Other than that, you have not paid the balance?
Correct.
Okay. And yet you got your inheritance and bought a condo. All right. That's not fair to him, quite frankly. And I'm going to grant his judgment based on the facts and the law, but even out of fairness, ma'am, that's not fair. You waiting on inheritance. It takes you 3 years to give this man his money, and then you only give him a portion of it. Judgment for the plaintiff, $270. Have a good day.
It's what I expected.
I don't have anything to say.